Hello, everybody. You're welcome to We Table It Coffee Chatter today. My name is Eno Waire, and with me on this talk is my co host, Valerie Siganga. It's a pleasure to have you all once again with us on We Table It. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. I want to just plead with you to do something as you come in. Press the share button, invite your friends to be on this live because it's going to be very, very interesting. Today, we'll be doing a conclusion of what we started last week on leadership in Africa. But before we go on, I want to once again welcome you all to We Table It Coffee Chatter. You're welcome. You're welcome to this live today. On this platform, we delve into interesting topics in the view to create an impact in the society we live in. We've been having some very interesting topics coming on since the beginning of the year. We've talked about a lot of topics bordering on your finances, bordering on violence against men. We talked about a whole lot of them. Last week we did leadership in Africa, and today we are still looking at that, but with emphasis on whether or not our youths are ready to take on the baton from the leaders we have today. All right. Last week we had with us Mr. We had with us our host Valerie. We had with us Dr. Osaro, and we talked about it. When will the youths of today become the leaders of tomorrow? This is a question that has been on the minds of so many in the nations of Africa. We've asked these questions time and time again. When will the youths of today become the leaders of tomorrow? What inspired this topic when we have conversations at the back end on this platform? For me, I remember when I was a kid and people tell me, you are the leader of tomorrow. We sing in our primary schools and we are told that we are the leaders of tomorrow. And going on to over 40, we are yet to take on the position of leadership. We see in our nations in Africa where we have prolonged leadership for as much as 4 decades. We have that live in Cameroon with Paul Biya. We have in Equatorial Guinea also the president who has been for about 40 years. So, is this okay? Should we overlook this? Is it right for the youth to, speak up and say that we want to take our place in the scheme of things? Is it okay for us to say this? So today we'll be looking at whether or not the youths are ready for the task ahead. So you're welcome. As you come in, please like this post, share, invite your friends. It's important. We want to have you share with us your thoughts in the comment section. Whatever your thoughts are, please feel free to just leave a comment. If you want to come on this live to speak, please just leave a message box and we'll call you on to share with us. You're welcome. Over to you, Valerie.
Well, thank you, Eno. Thank you so much for introducing our topic today, introducing everybody to what it is that we want to discuss and go over. And I am really excited that we are continuing to pursue this topic because I think the more we look into it, the more interesting and dynamic it becomes. And so, what I'll do today is maybe just touch on a bit of my understanding of leadership from the point of view of generational gaps. And the reason I think it's interesting to pursue it and look at this topic in that way is first, I asked myself, who are the youth? You know, I like to think of myself as youth, but I think I'm approaching the borderline of what youth are. And so basically, I look at youth and I think, okay, um, for me, youth is if you're below 40. So, yes, if you're below 40, you're in the category of the youth. And these are the youth that we're looking at who are going to go out there and make that difference and step into those leadership roles that we've been talking about. And so when I look at the youth in this way, looking at them from that perspective, there are two generations that stand out for me. And those are the millennials and the Gen Z. And I think it's important to look at these two generations because what shapes them really determines, I think, the faith that people have in the youth taking up responsibility as leaders in their respective spaces. And so I fall into the space of being a millennial. And so I can speak to that mindset and I can speak from a point of what motivates me, what would make me get into a leadership position, and really what leadership means and where loyalties lie. And I'm also very blessed to have a younger brother who is in the category of Gen Z and who powerfully stands out as a leader in all it is that he does and that he pursues. And watching his journey into leadership and taking up leadership positions, I can say that there are distinct differences between how he went about it and how I would go about it. And why I think this is important is the people who are currently holding leadership positions, especially really powerful ones, tend to be older than this generations that we're talking about. And so they have different mindsets about whether we are capable or not capable. And in the end, they are decision makers, as are people who are in our space. So I will touch on that a little bit and start off by talking about millennial, such as myself. So, as a millennial, when I look at leadership and the positions that I've held in leadership and how they've come about and I've been able to stay in those positions, there's been a lot of collaboration. And so, what do I mean by collaboration? I think my generation is one where we were really thoroughly encouraged to do group work. You know, if you think about a time, I know when we were in university, we would be encouraged to do assignments. Your grade is determined by an individual assignment, one you do on your own, and a group assignment, one you do with other people. And in that group assignment, everybody's supposed to give a part of their knowledge so that the whole group is able to succeed. If one person doesn't work in that group, it affects everybody else. And you'll find some who will step in and fill the gap, some who will go and complain and fight for their rights and say, this person is not working. But regardless of it, we needed to have to collaborate in order for us to move forward. And that is just looking at our education and university. When we go into the workplace and we become leaders and we're put in charge of teams, we know that you need to collaborate in order to get the final result. But in that collaboration, there is a leader, somebody who stands out from the entire group, who gives instructions, who will ask questions, not necessarily take in people's point of view, and decide on the way things are supposed to be. And if you all want to pass the assignment, as an example, do what the group leader says, and you will do that. So imagine something as simple as what we do in university now occurring in our real lives. When we're talking about the youth and leadership, we have grown up in a system where we know that we're supposed to collaborate. But even in that collaboration, there's somebody who makes a decision and you move forward with it. If you don't agree with the decision, you find your space in the process to do what you need to do for this group to succeed. But we were not the sort to really stand out and voice out that we don't agree, that we do have a voice, that, we must be heard. It's more the assignment must be done. And so here we are in a nation where we are collaborators in our leadership. We will complain about the leaders who we have in place. We will be upset that we were part of the process to vote them in, And we will do what they tell us to do because we all have to work together for the greater good. So, are we then ready to really take up those positions? Are we ready to stand out and have our voices heard? I mean, it's something to really think about. And I think another interesting aspect of being millennial is we learn. So when we have a problem, we read, we try and find a solution through learning. And so it applies to leadership. When we have a challenge with a leader, we are likely to go and try and learn how we can overcome this challenge, read and discover the statistics, look at what it is that's on paper, understand where the problem is, which I think is commendable and also fantastic that we are able to go in and research and really go deep into what is the problem with the leadership. But then after we've done all of that comes the next step. If this is not working, are we going to then take action to change the leader? Are we going to wait so that we're told when to take action to change the leader? You know, and these are things I think that really affect our generation. So when I say wait, as an example, to change the leadership, we know that in many countries we have elections. So our election means that our leadership is going to change every 4 years or 5 years, depending on the country that you're in. All right. That is for governmental leadership. In companies, there might be a different system of every year, every 2 years. It depends. But normally there's a system that allows leadership to transition. And so here we are, the leadership is not working as we expect it to. Are we ready as people in our generation, as millennials, to stand up and make a change now because it's not working now? Or are we going to wait until when it's supposed to change and then try and fight for a change then? And I think that's something that affects the leadership that we have of today. As a leader, I could wake up today and say, I have a fantastic idea for my country, for my business, for life, to change something. But then I am held by voicing my ideas because the change in leadership is set to happen in 2 or 3 years. So if I want to bring that idea to life and make the difference I want to make, I have to wait for these 2 or 3 years. And I think that's a mentality that we need to look into to see whether we're ready to be responsible for leadership, responsible to be in action, responsible to make a difference when it is necessary. And I don't know, Eno, what are your thoughts on just this in terms of our generation and what's happening in leadership there?
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. So I quite agree with you when you said something about the transitioning process affecting the quality of leadership we have today. You asked a question. You said, "Are we supposed to, as a youth, when we do not get the kind of leadership we want or we deserve, are we to stay quiet and watch, or at what point are we to take actions, and what kind of actions are we to take?" Now, when I said I agree with you, that transitioning process, one government to the other government, it's very, very critical. However, we handle that, it's going to tell on our leadership style, it's going to tell on the quality of the governance that we have as any nation in Africa or even in the global community. If the leaders that are to come in are aware that they have a waiting youth, permit me to use that word, who is going to hold them accountable for any misdeed, for any inconsistencies in their governance, of course they would sit up. I think so. They would sit up. I think we've been so lax with our system. I don't want to use the government because every one of us, we are actually what makes up the government, those in power, and even us, the youth. Whatever we see in governance today is a product of who we are as a people. That is just the truth. I would have a discussion, and I think it was yesterday. I would tell them, I said, my country people are a group of, I don't want to use the word, we are not ready for
Mm.
uh, for what we hope to get out of governance. I don't think we are ready. We need discipline. We need accountability. Yeah, we need to hold people accountable for any action or inaction when they are in any position of authority. Until we get to this point where they come in with the mindset that they are going to be held accountable for whatever they are doing while in seat and during the process of the time of transitioning, um, we still have a long way to go. Valerie, that's what I think. We have a long way to go. Whether the youths are ready or not is another topic, and that is what we are looking into. I will go on, but I'll wait for Valerie to go in again. I'll go on to let us, on my own side, what I think about the youths,
Mhm.
whether they are ready or not, and what it will take them to be ready. All right, over to you, Valerie. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eno. And what you've said, I resonate with. The government is us. We are the people who are the government. We put officials in place, but we are the people. So we need to, really, really recognize and powerfully make decisions based on knowing that this is us and this is our decision. And so as I just started, I touched on millennials and where we are and what our experience in the leadership space and our behavior around leadership, how I interpret it. And so now I'd like to touch a little bit on Gen Z. This is from observation and observing one of my younger brothers who is powerful and passionate when it comes to pursuing leadership and leadership opportunities. And it's something that he has been doing, I think, since he was a teenager. He's now in his early 20s and really stands out when it comes to looking for positions of leadership and how he goes about them. And the first thing I think that really differs between how their approach is a little bit different from ours is a lot of self direction. So where we, I think, as millennials, get a lot of our leadership positions through hard work and collaboration, being promoted, being put above other people in that sense of competition. I see that with him and his generation, there's a lot of self-drive. And there's a lot of, I want to get into this leadership position. So in order to get into this position, I need to do this. And I've watched him take steps to get into that position. When requested or when he sees an opportunity to take up a leadership position, he will take up the opportunity and learn as he's taking up the opportunity in the opportunity without any sense of real self doubt. Or if the self doubt is there, you can't see it in his actions and in the way that he is behaving. So he takes it on from a very individual point of view. This is something that he is doing in order to be able to grow himself and his life. And it fits into a much bigger picture of life, where he wants to be, what he wants to do, and this is part of that journey. So I think that is inspirational when it comes to leadership, particularly leadership of young people. I think as millennials, for those of us who are blessed to be employers, and also for those who are working in companies where they interact with Gen Z, there's a lot of friction when we look at how we behave versus how they behave, and we set expectations on how they're supposed to behave. But I think it's time we actually start to embrace what it is that is strong about these individuals to bring out their best. Now, another thing that I find about the younger generation who are in the Gen Z, especially in the workplace, is that they are strong advocates and they go for things in a passionate way. So, strong advocates standing up for their rights, strong advocates standing out for social rights, for economic rights. They have strong opinions when it comes to their political voices as well. So, they go full out and they're strong in that. And they don't waver from their decisions and from the voices that they're trying to bring out. It's for me, I look at it and I see a sense of passion that it's really possible to cultivate and help and guide so that these young people really do become those leaders of tomorrow that we were talking about and take up those positions. So now, what would leadership look like if we made somebody who is from this generation responsible for 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people when we're talking about leadership from a governance point of view? What does that look like? And when I think about their view on the world and how that leadership would look, I see an opportunity for solutions. So I see an opportunity for digital solutions and understanding of how to use resources to make things easier. And how not only just to make things easier, but to get everybody else to buy in to what it is that's being created to make it easier. And we know that the youth make up the maximum population. As we're getting older, our, our value in terms of numbers is reducing. The people who are at the highest level are those between the ages of, I think, 15 and 25. We'd have to check on that statistically, but it basically does follow a pattern like that around the world. So these are the people who we're looking at in terms of giving solutions, looking at things differently and making life easier. We're also looking at people who are self-driven. So this is something that somebody will go into as a young leader with passion to make a difference, to do something in their space and to stand out for it. I think there's a lot of opportunity when we look at the younger generation actually taking up powerful positions of leadership. That said, I think that it's also necessary for us who are in the older space to give guidance and mentorship, and not to give guidance and mentorship in the way that we expect them to be, but to bring out their best qualities through guidance and mentorship and shape how they can best use positions of leadership to benefit the society the best way. So what it means when I say that for me is being in a position where there's no judgment. I might not understand all the reasons why behavior is different, an approach is different, but I can look and see what works in that approach and embrace that and help to grow that so that we're living off, I think, a more positive mindset when it comes to these younger people. But yes, the space for mentorship is immense. And so this brings me to a really interesting challenge when I think about this topic and where this topic began. Who are these mentors? You know, who are the mentors? Ideally, the mentors should be the people who are in the generation above, which would be us as the millennials mentoring those who are in Gen Z. But us as the millennials are crying out and saying, wait, where are those positions of leadership that we were supposed to step into? Because those positions of leadership are still being held by people who are so much older than us and who have not given us adequate room to create our space and grow there so that we can then mentor those who are younger. So I don't know, Eno, what you think. I'm thinking about somebody who's in their 60s trying to mentor somebody who's in their 20s, into what leadership is supposed to be. And that person who's in their 60s, their leadership style is just, it's different. It may even be outdated. So, yeah, what do you think of
Yeah,
that? Mm.
yeah. I think the age gap is going to create a kind of how would I put it? It's not going to be you want to communicate when that age gap is there. Ideally, like you said, the Gen Zs should get this mentorship from those that are just directly above them, which are the millennials. And uh, for now, we do not have much of the millennials in power in our nations. We have them in other parts of the world. So that is the gap right there. You are wanting them to be ready for a political position or a governance position or whatever it is, but they are not having the right mentorship. They are not having the right mentorship, and that's taking me to another area that's connected to it. It's cultural, societal norms that is a sort of barrier. Now, the young ones want to speak, and the older ones are like, keep quiet. You are being disrespectful. You cannot communicate your disapproval. You cannot communicate whatever it is on your mind. As exactly that for the Gen Z, they want to be outspoken, but the ones that are in their 60s will shut them down. So this is the age gap. How are we going to handle this, the age gap issue? It is not easy for those generations. I mean, those ones that are in governance now and the ones that are to be the leaders of tomorrow to really get into one space and understand themselves. Yeah, because there was no proper transitioning. There's been a gap between these generations, and we, the millennials that are supposed to, carry on and carry down this mentorship or this training, we have not been given this opportunity. So, but somehow we are going to find out how to work it out. I think the youths are ready. I think the youths are ready from my own end. All they need, like Valerie would say, is the mentorship. They need the mentorship. They need to be heard. The youth need to be heard. They need to be, yeah, because in places like the West, even a child is given opportunity to speak when it's time to really speak. Their voice counts. Whatever they say counts. But in this part of the world, they'll tell you you are disrespectful when you open your mouth to talk. uh, the ones above you will tell you you are not ready. You have um, some poor values, or how they put it. He's so not careful. She's so not together. She cannot be there. They think we are not ready, or the youth are not ready, which is one thing I think we should address. We should stop discouraging them. We need to put them in that place where they are ready, where you pat them on the back. You can do this. You can do this. So they get into that role. They are intentional about it. They work towards it. They want to do it. When we have people encouraging them that this is what you should do and you can do this, definitely we will get the caliber of youth who are ready for leadership. All right, thank you. Over to you, Valerie.
Yeah, no, I agree. Oh my goodness, what you've touched on, you just touched on it a bit, but it's something so fundamental, I think, to growing up as an African. And one of those things is respect, and particularly respect for our elders. So that's not to say that in different countries they don't grow up with respect for their elders, but for us, I think it is shaped and appears a little bit differently
The
when we look at
expectation
respect
is
for our
high.
elders.
Yeah, expectation is high.
Yes. Yeah. And one of the things that when I was growing up, we didn't do was question. We don't really question the elders. When somebody who's much older tells you something, you do what they've told you to do. So you don't really question them, whether you agree with what it is that they're saying or not. And it doesn't matter how much older you become when it comes to somebody who's older than you giving you an instruction. Because I think even now at my age, if someone who's 20 years older than me asks me to do something, maybe at a function, or somewhere, I will get up and I will do it without question by virtue of the person simply being older than me. And so I think, oh my goodness, with that mentality now, where we listen to the elder and do what they say without question. It's not surprising that when it comes to really getting into positions of leadership, we are the way that we are, because we know if you're told don't do that now, you might not do that now. If you're told to sit down, you might sit down. And those who really stand up and have their voices out and are heard and really make a lot of noise are labeled with names that are definitely not positive. And we look at them like there's something that's not right about how they're communicating. They're eccentric, they're a little bit mad. How can they go and do this? So it also limits the people who stand up and want to fight for those rights. And this discussion for me, as I'm having it and we're talking, I'm even thinking about my own conclusions about different young leaders and the actions that they've taken, and when they step outside the box, and how do I approach what it is that they've done and how they've gone about it. We do have people here in Kenya who have made bold decisions when it comes to taking up voices in leadership and voices for the people and making bold statements. But it's easy to say for us, oh, don't listen to that person because their marriage life is like this, or they didn't go to school like this, or they don't dress the way we expect them to dress. Or, even worse, how can this person have no children and they're this age? They don't know what they're talking about. I mean, we're equating the value of a leader to things that really have nothing to do with actually what they bring to the table as leadership. And I don't know, is that the same thing that the youth face in Nigeria when they come out and they're eccentric and they're really trying to be heard, and then they get judged based on everything but the topic that they're talking about? Does that happen there as well?
Yeah, this is common here. Yeah, they use that
Mm,
as a tool to just keep you quiet. They don't want to be accountable. They don't want to be answerable to anybody. Yeah, so it's that way. Yes,
mm.
it is okay for us to have respect for our elders, but we need to strike a balance. We need to hold them accountable when they are not doing right. All right, so yeah, this is one of the problems the youth are facing in this leadership situation we are discussing now.
Yes. And in that accountability, and I think there's also a conversation about the youth and money. And it's something we kind of mentioned at our last talk, where we talked about there being godfathers, who bring people into leadership
Yeah.
positions, and how money is used to manipulate leadership in different countries. And I think that's a problem that we also have when we're looking at our youth being responsible for leadership. Because generally, if you're in the youth space, you're still in the path to building your wealth, to, sort of creating a net worth. You're not there yet. I think people who are closer to their 50s and above, particularly in Africa, are those who start to actually realize a lot of material wealth. Maybe not even 50s, let's say 40s and above. Really realize material wealth and start to make those decisions. So then, as the youth, if you have a voice and you don't have financial backing, how can we go about it in terms of being heard and being able to take up those youth positions for leadership?
Yes, this is a very dicey question. I don't know, it's a very sensitive question.
Mm,
In other climes, we see them take extreme measures when their voice are not heard. We see a country that has gone on protests for months, letting the government know that they are not okay with a certain something. They go on for months. And in some other climes, you see, we've heard extreme cases of even executing corrupt leaders. Now, I'm not in any way saying that we go through this route because I believe that there are ways to really go about it without spilling blood. Yes. I would like to say that it's not good for us to take these extreme measures because I always go by this word: pen is mightier than sword. There must be
mm,
something that we can do to get our voice heard. Now, I would want to go the protest route if you are not satisfied with something the government is pulling out in your own nation. It depends on the situation. I would want to say a protest, but we've seen cases where the youths are all out together to, lend their voices, over a situation, and they were severely dealt with. I believe that there are laws, even international laws, that covers protest. Uh, to protect the rights of those that are involved in protests. But in places like in Nigeria, I have seen where the youths were dealt with for coming out to have a peaceful protest. I don't know if that's the same thing in your country. We own the right
Oh,
to speak. Every citizen has the right or reserve the right to speak, to go into a peaceful protest the right way. You get it? So,
mm,
yes. That being said, I will still say that, when you have, put in the word that you are not comfortable with a certain situation from the governance, or when it's going against your constitutional rights, of course, you can speak up in protest. We are hoping that uh, the ones in governance will take into account that it is the right of every citizen to speak. It is the right of every citizen to have a peaceful protest. No one should silence the youth. We are not, or they are not, because now I don't want to see myself as the youth. I'm already crossing over to the other side. I like to see myself in the youth of old age. Yeah, so yes, they should not be silenced. They should
mm,
speak up. They should be allowed to speak up whenever. And you should put yourself in a position to be accountable in the first place. And you should put yourself as a leader in a place where you do not bully the ones that are under you, the ones that are coming up. There's so many things to talk about in this topic. And as we go on, I will just begin to chip them in.
mm. Yeah. Oh gosh, I know. I think every time you mention something, I'm like, oh yes, yes, I can relate. Because the same thing happens here in Kenya. When the youth come out, and they want to fight for their rights and they want to speak about something and they're standing up for what they believe in, we face pushback from our police forces,
Yeah.
from our security forces. People get hurt, people get killed, and
Yeah.
the message that comes out is they were just rowdy youth or they were being led by a particular person to go and become destructive, or it's not the fact that they were coming out to fight and speak for what they believe in disappears, and it becomes something about these people were coming out so that they could rob, they could destroy, they could really make a mess of things. And I think in every country, when you do have a protest and people coming to speak out, there are those who are out to take advantage of the situation. But I think if we were to look at it in a percentage way, those would not be anything compared to the ones who just want to be heard. And it comes back to who
Mm.
our leaders currently are. Because here we are, we're like, we want to be
Yeah.
heard, we're not happy, we are struggling to live day by day, and we are shut down and told, okay, struggle away, but we're still making this decision, we're still doing this, it's for your own good. You'll discover later. In 3 years, you'll see the difference. And we're like, but now, what are we going to do now? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's a lot that can be talked about in that regard. Just the violence that we
Yeah.
face and our ability to protest when we want something to change. And okay, so
Yeah.
now,
All
and let
right.
me pass.
Test. The word.
Mhm. Yes, yeah. And so now I want to pass the baton to you, just so that you can let us know about what leadership looks like for the youth in our current landscape. And yes, yes, just to elaborate on that.
Please, can you come again? I couldn't get that because of the network. You asked a
Oh, I was
question.
saying, yes, what leadership looks like, I think in Africa, the current landscape of Africa. What do you think leadership looks like, especially for the youth and opportunities here on our continent?
Okay. Leadership. What it looks like in Africa. Before I go on, I would like to engage anyone who is viewing us right now. Before we got into this question, we asked that what's to be done when we want to have our voice heard and there's a pushback by the government. What are we to do? We want to hear your contributions. We want to read from you. Kindly leave a comment on what you think. We had a situation where the youths came out at the Lekki toll gate to say they want an end to SARS because of violence against the citizenry, and there was a pushback. Um, we heard that some people lost their lives in the process, but in the news, the government came up to claim that there were no lives lost. So that's just an alleged, what we heard. So, yeah, what do you think we should do, or what do you think should be done when you want, because I want you all to know something. It's your right to protest in the right manner. It's your right to have a peaceful protest. You do not obstruct, activities of the society or whatever it is. You can protest in a very peaceful manner. But when you are having a situation where they want you to shut up, please let us know what you think should be done. Yes, we do not want to indulge anyone who would want us to go extreme measures. We want a very reasonable contribution. Please share your contribution. We want to change. We want to see, these things happening where the youth's voice are being heard in this country. And now back to the question you asked me, Valerie. You asked me if what's the leadership landscape in Africa. All right, we all know that we have in most nations in Africa we have a lot of uh, holding or seizing power. They don't want to leave when it's time to leave. We have that. We know that it's a 4 years tenure on the average. You stay for 4 years and you are allowed to do a rerun. And if you are elected back into office, you can come and stay for another 8 years. With reference to Nigeria, I think that's what it's obtainable in some other nations of Africa. Yeah, but what we observe in some parts it's that people would not want to go. It makes it look like it's a monarchy something, like it's a birthright, like presidency is their birthright. Being a prime minister is their right or their family's right. They hand it over from the father to the son, or the uncle. Or, they have it in all levels of governance: presidency, state, government, and even the local government in Nigeria, where they want to hand it to their son-in-laws, their daughters, like that. It has to just rotate within a certain family. That is what we have. This is what is obtainable. We do not have true democracy in Africa. This is the truth, a bitter truth that we must tell ourselves. We do not have true democracy. It is not free and fair to all. There is a lot of gangsterism, what they call the word godfatherism. We are not having it that like we should have it. Let's call a spade a spade. It doesn't matter whose ox is God. We want to change, so we are going to say it as it is. A lot of godfatherism, a lot of holding on to power, not going, and people that have absolute authority. They are not questioned. They are not held accountable for any of their actions while in power. The youth are crying that they've had enough. What process do we go through to register our displeasure? This is what we are about on today's coffee chatter. Please share this post as you come in. Leave your comment. We want to read from you. We want to share thoughts with you. So that's where we are at the moment. What your thoughts are, please let us see that. So over to you, Valerie. In Kenya, what is it like in the leadership landscape? Let's hear from you. Thank you.
Oh, and no, it's the same. So I will say we're facing similar
Pretty
challenges.
much.
Families who stay in power, husbands and wives who employ each other in leaderships of power, godfatherism. It's exactly the same situation. And there's a question you have asked, and I'm like, I wish I knew the answer to this. And I think it's something that is worth exploring for in both countries. When you have a complaint about something, where do you go? Who do you complain to? All right. So for me personally, one of the challenges I'm facing as a business owner is updates that are being made to our tax laws here in Kenya. That is making it challenging to do business because our costs are going up and we don't really have I wouldn't say we don't really have a voice in the matter, but you feel like you're not heard. So, one of the things that we do have in place, or that's put in place, is something called public participation, where something is coming up, we're all supposed to send emails or go for a meeting at the government somewhere. I think I've only done public participation once or twice, sending my thoughts on email and hoping somebody somewhere reads them, and that I'm able to make a difference in that way. But if I really did want to complain about something and someone, I would need to really look and see where is it that I can go and voice. Who can I go and speak to about cost of living in a way that they will hear me and will come up with a plan that, or they can reveal to me their plan on how they're going to make this better, and someone I can actually speak to, not a platform, not a chat bot, a person that is able to, I can speak to, they can speak to me, and they're in a position of leadership. I think one of the challenges that we
Yeah,
have as well is, how do you
yeah.
reach
Zero
your leader?
feedback system.
Yes. Can you just walk into a governor's office? Can you walk into a senator's office, and tell them, I'm having this concern and this challenge, and I'm a citizen and I'm in your area, and I'd like to know what's being done or how you can help me? Or is it that when you get there, you've got like 10 levels of people to pass from the receptionist to the PA to the administrator to the what is your reason? It
Yeah,
becomes your leader can't hear from you, unless you're on Twitter. And hopefully then they read your message. But we need to have a way that as people we know,
yeah,
we can speak to somebody and we can have a conversation
yeah,
and they can hear us. um, yeah, I'd encourage leaders to create forums that make that possible. But part of their work and their mandate should be actually physically having conversations with people and listening. And whether people are happy, most people, when you're happy, you would go for a meeting. So when you're aggrieved and you're expressing what is aggrieving you, just to hear people and let them be heard. And then I think that will also encourage the young people who are going into positions of leadership to now start seeking out those leaders who are doing what it is that they'd like, so that they can emulate that as well. Yeah. Mm.
please come again.
Now, saying if leaders are open, right, and we can actually reach them, and they can
Okay.
have meetings and
Yeah,
engagements with us on one level,
yeah,
it would make a
yeah,
difference.
yeah.
And also,
We are
when the
having.
young people who we want to become leaders can see this and begin to understand just the importance of their voices, the voices of the people, and how listening to those voices can help you make a difference. Mm.
All right. So this is it. This is one of the issues that needs to be addressed. We have this zero feedback society here in Africa, or I can speak for myself. There's a need for forums to be set up where people can air their opinions about any topic relating to governance. Okay, so where there is feedback, there is improvement, there is change. One thing is to get the feedback, then another challenge I foresee is processing this feedback. You could write and write, and there's nobody on seat to listen and to take this concerns to the right office. So this is another thing. We need to be very intentional in this area of feedback, because when you are sitting there up high and mighty, you do not know what the people in the grassroots are going through. So yes, you need to hear directly from them without the middleman or going through anybody, because it could be quite cumbersome going to the office and then, oh, the boss is not around, or you can't even have access to speak to
Mm,
anyone who is supposed to take care of these issues of concern. So yes, we need to improve. We need to do better. We need to, get past the zero feedback society, and begin to talk, begin to request for feedback, begin to process this feedback, and begin to get better.
I agree. I agree. I think we just need to keep talking about what it is that we'd like, and to keep asking our leaders. I think, like when your child wants something from you, you can say no, and they will ask you again, and you'll say no, and you'll ask you again, and it'll get to a point where you compromise. You're like, okay, let's do this. So I think we need to also ask and keep speaking to our leaders. And as I see we're coming to the top of our hour, there's something I'd wanted to talk about, and that is education, because education is paramount to where it is our leaders get shaped from. So I think it's important for us to look at what does education look like today, and how are our kids learning? Are the kids, or I keep calling them kids, the youth, sorry, how are our youth learning? Are the youth going through university in the same way? Are the courses adapting to what is happening today? And what about the internet and where they're getting information? So do you have any thoughts on how education systems are actually shaping our leaders of tomorrow, or our leaders of now, the young ones? Mm,
All right. Education is important. It should be a very important prerequisite for leadership positions, because more than the plus or minus or whatever you get relating to the courses you have while in your tertiary institution, secondary tertiary institution, there is this opportunity to get to meet people of diverse backgrounds and relate with them and understand them and know what ails them. Uh, this is the information or experience that is integral to building someone who is whole, who is ready for a leadership position. It's not just about the course, you're a medical doctor, you're political science graduate, or no, no, no. It goes beyond that. I think the school gives them an opportunity to get to meet people and to interact, especially the tertiary, where people of diverse communities, backgrounds come together to school together. They get to meet people and understand themselves. Yes, it should be very important for leadership selection. In this part of the world where I'm in, we've had a president whose entry certificate into, I think, a presidency, he was supposed to bring out the secondary school result or something like that. And that too was controversial. People said it was doctored and all that, which is
mhm,
not supposed to be. The school is a place where they get as much information that will prepare them. Okay, when they are not getting mentorship as it should be, the school should be fundamental to this necessary information that would help them shape their leadership and prospects or positions.
mm,
The youth in Africa, yes, we are well read. Uh,
mm,
in comparison to other climes, African youths are well read. They are okay, but there is need for enforcing. I don't like to use that word, but I would use it now. There is need for enforcing that for one to get into a certain position in governance, you must have passed through school so that you don't wake up one morning and come up with policies that is, a no-brainer that is not going to benefit the masses just because of poor exposure, or you are not really exposed to make some decisions. We've had some kind of decisions come up and we'll be like, what in century you are talking about, for instance, I don't know. I don't want to go too deep into these conversations. Okay, so there are some policies that should not even make it. It should not see the light of
Mm.
days of the day because these people are not educated. They just come up with this kind of policies um, out of their being uh, tribalistic, ethnic centric, whatever it is. So yes, education is very important. We need to get it right in the area of education. We need to everyone, regardless of their creed, regardless of tribe, regardless of nation, every child should have access to education because indeed they are the leaders of tomorrow, and this education is fundamental to the shaping, permit me to use that word, of the leadership
Mm.
skills or prospects. I beg your pardon. Yeah, so that's that. We need to look along that line. Thank you.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I know, I agree. First of all, thank you for the reminder. We are very educated in Africa. People really do go to school and hold qualifications at all levels. And we don't stop at the undergrad, guys. We
Okay.
go and go, masters and PhD students
Yeah, we are
or
educated.
graduates
Mm.
are abundant here. And a lot of us have had the advantage of also being educated in different countries and different economies and coming back so that we can contribute to our own countries. And those lessons that we learned when we were outside or even here, but in that education space, are important. And it's important for us to bring them to life and not let them die down. In these last few moments, I'm going to share with you a course that we did together because I studied with Eno doing our master's program, and part of our master's program involved becoming a specialist in a particular area. And it was a very unique course to where we were studying because you become an industry specialist and a professional in that area, and you get a certification for it. And I think the challenge that I sort of faced coming back and knowing that I had a very strong understanding of my sector, which was in event management, a very deep understanding of how it runs as an industry because of this certification, was the recognition of the certification and people not understanding what it was about. And I think that ties in a lot with who you're interacting with in your leadership space. The person who has the potential to stand out as a leader might be more qualified than the leader himself or herself, which creates a sense of I don't say discomfort for the leader, but something that the leader cannot really grapple with and they don't know what to do with that. So then you find that people get sort of either put down or not given opportunities that they deserve despite their qualification. And that's something that frustrates people, I think, in our job markets in Africa, where you hear about people burning their degrees or doing, things because they're so qualified and they're not able to get into those positions of leadership that they have worked so hard to get the knowledge to be able to do well. So, yes, we have a lot of growing up to do on the continent. And, the people who are going to make those difference are the people who are watching. There is us who are here having the discussion. We are the ones who are going to make the difference. And so we need to powerfully stand ready to make that difference and take the actions that we need to. So, Eno, do you have any closing words for our audience today, for those who've been watching? Anything to just add on for them?
All right. So, thank you, Valerie, for this very thought-provoking conversation. It got me thinking as we're talking. Really, at what point are we to back down from speaking, or what are we to do when we are having experiencing resistance when we do some protests? And yes, what are the structures put in place to get us prepared or get the youths prepared for leadership? These are questions that's been bugging my mind. We need to stay competitive in the global leadership space. We need to get our youths ready in all aspects. We need to get them, rounded up, ready for the job. Education wise, like we discussed, yes, we are quite educated. We need to, yeah, like I said, we need to ensure that before people are placed in positions, they should be qualified to be there. All right. Uh, Sometimes we have a situation where we have people who are not qualified to do this because of godfatherism. They are there, while those that are qualified are not given the position to do. And when we have this kind of situation, of course, anarchy comes in. There is no growth because we do not have the right hands managing of the nation. So yes, it is okay to speak up. We need to understand that it's our right to speak up. And if you're a leader, it is not okay to shut the youth who is wanting to, make you accountable for every of your activities. It's not okay to silence them. They should speak. It's their right as citizens of any nation of the world, not just Africa, to speak. And yes, we are hopeful that the coming leaders from this Gen Z will be quite equipped for leadership position. As for us here on We Table It, we'll try as much as we can to provide whatsoever support we can to ensure that our nations are provided with leaders that are ready, that are equipped for the job. We'll do our best to continue speaking, to continue doing mentorship, doing our workshops, whatever it is, from our diverse backgrounds to support youth leaders in this dispensation. So, yes, for all of you that are watching, we want you to help us grow. This is a fresh and insightful platform. Please help us grow, help us share our posts, help us invite your friends. We want to grow with you, we want to hear from you. We want you to come up to let us know what issues you're having in the area where you are at, that you think we should speak about, we should discuss on. Yes, it's okay to leave us a message on the We Table Eat platform on Facebook or Instagram, wherever you're watching from. You can leave a message. Let us know that this is a situation in my area you think we should address. And yes, we would look into it and then we will talk about it. If you want to be a host, a discussant on this platform, you are welcome to do so. We are open to receive every of your requests, every of your comments, every of your recommendations, your suggestions, whatever it is to get Africa back on track. We are doing well, but there's so much more that we can achieve as uh, as a nation, as a continent, because let us be very honest with ourselves. In the global space, we are not doing very well. So yes, we need to wake up. We need to fix these issues. Wherever we have issues, we need to attend to them. Thank you so much, Valerie, for the time with you again today. I want to say it was quite insightful for me, quite yeah, thought provoking. Thank you so much, and enjoy the
Yes,
rest of your weekend. That's what I mean. Yeah.
yes, enjoy your weekend as well. And thank you, everybody, for your support, for joining us. And look out on our social media pages to see what we will be discussing next week. And we look forward to catching up with you then. So have a good weekend.